Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is set the record straight about one thing. This blue suit that I'm wearing now is not the same blue suit that I was wearing back then. However, I did bring my mustache from the 80s with me. All right. So, first of all, Carmen, it's so great to see you on the stage. Thank you so much for your remarks. Nancy, who would have ever thought back then when we were working at Congress Watch in Washington, D.C., that we'd end up here in California and making history together. You know, the passage of 103, and nobody, by the way, was more surprised than I that it passed, was obviously a pretty big turning point in my career. But that victory and the achievements that we're celebrating tonight are not mine alone. When I think of all the people in this room over the years who've worked with me, that I've had the honor to work beside, I get a little choked up. I can't name every person in this room who, through their work, through their friendship, through their support for Consumer Watchdog, is responsible for the success of Prop 103, but I have to mention a few people, and I'd ask you to hold your applause till the very end. Bob Hunter, the guru of insurance reform, Joe Cotchett and Carl Mannheim, who defended 103 at the state Supreme Court, Pam Presley, who probably saved California consumers $1 billion a year for every year she's worked at Consumer Watchdog. Michael Strumwasser, Fred Wucher, Bryce G., Beverly Palmer, Greg Luke, Andrew Orden, that team, Doug Heller, Bill Chernoff and Mike Bedart, the legendary Roseanne DeMoro, wow, Bonnie Castillo, and the constantly inspiring California Nurses Association. Nancy Drab, Leanne Tratton, and the leadership and members of CAOC who've repeatedly stepped in to protect Prop 103 in Sacramento over the years. Bruce Burlett Brown, Bruce Brusovich, the Aitken clan, Wayne McLean, and most especially my colleagues at Consumer Watchdog, starting with Jamie, Carmen, and Jerry Flanagan. You are tonight's heroes. Please stand up and let me honor you. Let's go. Up, up, up. And to your spouses, partners, and families, I want to thank you for sharing and supporting your loved ones in this common cause. And now I'd like to, yep, it's all about that. And now I want to talk to you a little bit about the transformative power of rage. Rage is what happens when a hospital puts profits over patients and people die. Rage is what happens when your insurance company denies your claim, when your utility company starts a fire that burns your house down and then tries to evade responsibility for that, when your 15-year-old daughter is trafficked on the internet. Rage is Wall Street speculators bringing down the financial system. Tens of millions of Americans lose their jobs and their life savings while Wall Street gets a financial bailout. Eventually, these injustices multiply upon themselves and become a cancer on our democracy. And as we know from the appalling situation in Washington, D.C., if we as a nation fail to recognize that rage and respond to it, it can be badly misdirected into tribalism, pitting Americans against each other, cannibalizing our democracy, and leaving us with a buffoon in the White House. We saw how rage was deployed in the insurance battles of the 1980s. In California, the companies were raising rates, as Nancy mentioned, through the roof for consumers and small businesses. And they refused to sell insurance to people because of where they lived, the color of their skin, or how much money they made. The public became outraged. People wanted an explanation. The insurance companies had one at hand. They blamed trial lawyers, juries, and the civil justice system for higher rates. It was a lie, but in a vacuum, it worked. But then we harnessed and redirected public rage against the insurance industry by using facts and truth to tell a story of the insurance industry's greed and the need for reform, and by addressing the abuses that plague the middle class, as well as people on low incomes. Prop 103 generated a voter coalition that connected the suburbs and the inner city. That built a grassroots revolt that the insurance industry, with all its tens of millions of dollars, could not overcome. That's what I mean by the transformative power of rage. When I was writing 103, I knew that if it somehow passed, the insurance industry would never stop fighting it. If the insurance companies succeeded, people would once again feel betrayed and worse, helpless. And once again, the insurance industry would be in control of the debate. So Prop 103 institutionalized the fight by authorizing consumers to challenge insurance companies in the courts decade after decade. Every day, Consumer Watchdog brings the battle to the insurance company's front door, every day. So it's a great testament to the power of the voters that Prop 103, 30 years later, has saved motorists $150 billion on their car insurance. But what has really motivated me, year after year, is the opportunity to prove to the voters that they can make a difference. And then when we work together, when we harness our rage for justice, we can prevail. Thank you. And now.